There's just something about Louisiana, South Louisiana in particular, and people love to have a good time here, and they love to eat great food and enjoy beverages and have a really good time. So part of the culture in Louisiana and seems to have always been there.
Thanks for joining us on Louisiana's Playground Podcast, your roadmap to all things Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm Brady Renard and flying solo today with my partner Anna off to the great beyond of Texas. So we wish her the best over there as we'll move forward. There will be eventually a new host. We're still in the works of ironing out the details there. So this one, I'm flying solo. You'll have to deal with me as I'm excited, though, to bring you authentic stories, as we always do, and experiences that we have to offer here in Southwest Louisiana, and giving you all the tools you need to build your own personal Lake Charles itinerary. And look, I think we've got a great show for you today, episode 26, as we're nearing a full year of the podcast. So excited. We talked to Nathaniel and Adam over at Smoke and Barrel as they talk about their festival and the company that they now have to produce and all of the work that they're doing in Southwest Louisiana and how you can benefit by enjoying yourself at their events. A fun conversation there. But before we get there, as we always do, let's have a taste of Southwest Louisiana, a segment we call On V Eats. This is the part of the show where we go to a local Southwest Louisiana restaurant and we let you know what we've got and what's exceptional there and what really stands out and how to best enjoy your experience at a local Southwest Louisiana establishment. Because no one enjoys eating by themselves, I enlisted the help of social media guru and just overall digital extraordinaire, Miss Catherine Shea Duncan, to help us here on the show. She's been in the background of all the On V Eats. Now a chance to kind of share her love for food as well as a native Louisianian. Welcome to the co-host chair for this segment, Catherine.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here and so excited to talk about food.
I have a daughter named Catherine, as you know, but we call her Quacky. Can I call you Quacky?
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, good, because it comes natural now. My son can't say Catherine, and so he said Catchwin. That then somehow devolved into Quacky, so that's what we're going with now. All right, Quack, tell him where we went.
So we went to Paul's Rib Shack, which was my idea because I am obsessed with their bread pudding.
Oh, kind of doing a little foreshadowing there to what we'll eventually get to, for
Yes.
sure. And look, this place opened October of 2019. They had a successful 2-year run as a food truck prior back in 2017, and owner Paul Pettiford was really impressed with how well that did, eventually wanted to open a restaurant, and they've been a mainstay since, even despite the storms, despite the weather, despite COVID. They've stood strong. They've become a great partner in the community, and all of those roots that they've planted has obviously come to fruition with what they've been able to do. But Paul, he's a barbecue enthusiast. He used to have this thing called the rib list, where he had buddies that he would cook for and then give them the ribs. They were on the little white piece of paper. Well, he said he got so many of those that eventually it got into the hundreds, and it kind of got it ridiculous, which is why he then just started doing the food truck and all of those things. So it's still the essence of the company is still all about the rib list. And to get on the rib list, come to Paul's Rib Shack.
It's a brilliant idea.
I do. I love it, right? Because a lot of great ideas kind of start in backyards and in garages, and that's 100% true for Paul.
And he still keeps that essence alive at his location today.
Yeah, I'd agree. So the rib list started 9 years ago, and now you can still come into Paul's Rib
Join
Shack.
the rib list.
Yeah, exactly. To join the rib list and see what all they've got. And look, I like the angles that they kind of take. It's obviously barbecue, authentic barbecue of what you come to expect when you go to a great barbecue joint, but they sprinkle in some Louisiana traditions like the red beans and rice, corn mac choux, or brisket dirty rice.
Which is very similar to like a jambalaya, but had a lot of flavor and it was the perfect amount of moisture and not too dry. It was very well seasoned.
I love restaurants that take a chance and try new things and push out new items, and they're never scared to do so.
Yeah.
And so props to Paul and the crew there for doing so. You know, they've got the standards: turkey, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, those things that you can expect to have on your plate. And I really like the fun, cozy atmosphere. Like the inside is, you know, it's all wood. It's a very cool cabin-like. I'd call it kind of like a cabin-like feel on the inside, but then the outside it opens under the big oaks over there, And the backyard is really kind of the selling point. If you're going to eat, you probably wouldn't sit in the backyard.
Yeah, and they have string lights in the oak tree and an incredible stage with live music on the weekends. And so it's a really great place to go dining for lunch or to dinner with your family, friends. It's a really fun atmosphere.
Yeah, and the fact that it's also on one of the busiest roads in Lake Charles, if you're driving on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, you can hear the live music wherever you are, all down Nelson Road. And so that's really cool that they kind of create that atmosphere back there. They call it the backyard because there's picnic tables, there's games like washers and that kind of stuff back there. There's tic-tac-toe, just different things. I mean, even on Wednesday nights, I believe they do game nights. So that's really the atmosphere that they push in the backyard, and it works for them.
Yeah, and they have an incredible selection. I love craft beer, and they have an incredible selection of craft beer. And in their backyard, they even have a bar where you can order beer on draft too.
So what do you think about their selection of barbecue and what you got?
So I got the pulled pork sandwich, which usually when I go to barbecue restaurants, that's what I get. I love pulled pork.
It's kind of the standard, right?
Yeah. I don't need anything too fancy, but it was it was delicious. And in fact, I used to live right by Paul's Rib Shack when I first moved here, and I would smell their barbecue all the time. And so I was a frequent flyer of Paul's Rib Shack, and that was what I always got. But it's delicious as always.
Good news for them, they didn't have one of those punch cards, or else you would just kind of every time that you're going, you're like, well, here's another free one. Sorry.
Yeah, paying the light bill, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, I like the idea. I typically get the sandwich as well, but I kind of wanted to branch out a little bit. So I went with their turkey nachos. So it's a bed of chips with turkey meat kind of on it. And look, I love the way that they do their turkey. There's not a huge smoke flavor, but they season it so well. That crust was perfect, and it's so tender, and it's got so much flavor. I mean, it's perfect turkey. There's no better way to say that. Then there's queso. They put smoked beans on it, jalapenos, and then barbecue sauce. So it's a real, you're turning nachos on its head really with this, but it's such a cool group of flavors that all really work together. It's cheesy, but it's meaty with the chicken and hearty with the beans. It's got the crunch from the chip, the sweetness, tangy from the barbecue, and then the spicy from the jalapenos. So it all pairs into this beautiful, wonderful barbecue deliciousness. I almost called it a mess because it's all over, but it's a beautiful mess that's perfectly executed, and I really like the way that they flip nachos on their head for it.
Yeah, and a lot of their dishes, you have the ability to kind of like customize and add queso on top or jalapenos, more extra barbecue sauce, and that's a really fun feature of their restaurant.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of standard sides: the green beans, the mac and cheeses. They've got the smoked beans, the red beans and rice, the corn makshu. So there's a bunch of different options there. As we mentioned, now the dirty rice that they kind of have. So there's a bunch of different options that you can kind of have and try some different things that they do, and they do them all well. Now, while they do the craft beer, the atmosphere, the food, great, there's something that they do better. For me personally, it's probably my favorite, or at least tied. Like
100%.
Their bread pudding,
y'all,
is out of this world.
It is unbelievable.
I don't know if they put gold in it.
Brady and I just took a first bite and we said nothing. We just closed our eyes and just enjoyed the moment.
It's a good point. It just melts in your mouth. Yeah. It's like it's like eating butter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the consistency. It's so smooth. And
let's tell them what's on it first.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's not just butter either. There's an awesome rum sauce that they put on the top of it. So it's a great bread pudding, and then they put a rum sauce, and then they have like kind of a blackberry reduction that they just kind of do. That just adds a little. It's not a ton, but it's just a little bit of extra kind of that berry sweetness that pairs with the very kind of rich rum sauce, and then the very soft, spongy bread pudding that you look for.
Just melts in your mouth.
But my goodness, it is exceptional. It's one of those, if you make a checklist of these are the things that you need to come to Lake Charles to make sure to put on your list, Paul's Rib Shack bread pudding's one of them.
Absolutely. Top 5 for sure.
I'm telling you, when you go, get whatever you want on the menu. You're not going to be disappointed. But if you don't get the bread pudding, you will be disappointed.
Yeah, you're making a big mistake here.
Yeah, for sure. And look, the location, we mentioned it was on Nelson Road, which, if you're not familiar with the area, is just off of I-210. So it's on the south side of Lake Charles, but also in a very convenient area where it's about 5 minutes off the interstate or to either McNeese or Burton. So pretty much anywhere that you're going on the south side of town, Paul's Rib Shack is right there, as are a lot of great local restaurants as well. So you can't really miss. Paul's is one of those places that you're going to need to stop by. And remember, to get
the bread pudding.
You've got to get the bread pudding. So thanks for Catherine for stopping by.
Thanks, Brady.
Of course, I needed a good eating partner, and you more than fulfilled the role perfectly.
Thanks, yeah.
From a great meal to a great couple of guests. How about that? We welcome on Nathaniel Allured and Adam Fontenot of Smoke and Barrel Incorporated, two guys that have put a lot of time and energy into doing what they can to make Lake Charles a better place and a more fun place at that. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, Brady. Appreciate
Hello.
you having us on.
So you guys are obviously the first dual guest that we've ever had on the show, so congratulations to both of you for that. But this part of the show is something that we always do as we point out, how well our area is known for the fact that we've got big city amenities, but we also still have that small town charm, right? It makes for a vast array of experiences that we get to offer for anyone's itinerary, whether they're talking food, outdoor adventures, national and regional entertainment act. We have it all right here in the lake area, which is so much fun to be able to say that. So with that in mind, before we get started with our conversation, I want to know how both of you enjoy Southwest Louisiana. So I'm going to ask you a couple kind of rapid fire questions, and I might ask you to explain them. You guys okay with that?
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Crawfish or gumbo?
Crawfish.
Crawfish.
Why?
I just love them. They're delicious.
I can't have it all the time.
That too.
And I don't like gumbo in hot weather.
No. Okay. That's always my follow-up. So you're a gumbo has a season kind of guy.
It's 105 degrees right now. I'm not going to go eat gumbo for dinner.
Thoughts?
I enjoy gumbo mostly in the cold months too. But, that said, I'm not eating any real hot soup in the middle of the summer.
All right. I know two people who are not getting my It's Always Gumbo Season shirts that I'm going to make eventually. So I'm going to make a note right here about that. All right. Poolside or beachside?
I'm going beach. Somewhere where there's not a lot of people.
Oh.
Peace.
Okay.
That's a tough one for me, honestly. I like both. We recently took a vacation to the beach, and the place had a pool. So, best of both worlds.
Double dip.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, here's a fun one, too, because, there's definitely a favorite going on between these two, but we've had a couple of kind of underdog picks. Concert or comedy show?
Concert.
Yep. Concert.
The atmosphere, the music, the feeling, is that kind of what you guys like?
Energy,
Music just plays a large part of my life. I'm not going to really listen to a comedy show while I'm cooking, on a Saturday afternoon.
Now that we kind of got to know how both of you experienced Louisiana and Southwest Louisiana at that and really kind of enjoy it, let's get to the topic of what we kind of wanted to talk about, which is festivals and the fact that you guys have created one from scratch, from the ground up. And I love what our lieutenant governor said. He's got a great line about celebrating festivals. He said, if you can eat it, shoot it, catch it, or dance to it, here in Louisiana, we're going to name a festival about it. And what do you think it is about Louisiana that makes that statement so true?
For me, it can kind of be summed up with the French saying joie de vivre, right? The joy of life. And there's just something about Louisiana, South Louisiana in particular, where I think there's just a certain vein in the culture that doesn't exist everywhere. And people love to have a good time here, and they love to eat great food and enjoy beverages and have a really good time. So to me, it just kind of can be best be summarized as joie de vivre, which is just part of the culture in Louisiana and seems to have always been there,
When you talk about then creating a festival, what's the inspiration behind that, the genesis, the idea there that says, you know what? We want to have a celebration. We want to be one of those things that we can eat, shoot, catch, or dance to it, and we want to celebrate it.
I'm going to let Adam lead the response there because as the creative director, this whole thing was really his inspiration.
Kind of what came to me, it was like December 2017, and I was out of town somewhere at an event, and I was just kind of like, why can't this happen in Lake Charles? So a week or two later, I called Nathaniel. He was actually out of town. And Easter 2018, we were doing exactly what my idea in my mind was, cooking ribs, drinking bourbon. And I said, hey, man, what you think? Let's go ahead and do this. And he was like, all right, let's go. That was a Sunday. Monday, I woke up with the name, and we just started moving forward.
And sometimes that's all it takes, right? It's just, you might have the idea already, and all you need is that little bit of, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Some positive reinforcement. Even if you got a good friend, who's with you about doing it, and he's like, oh, that's all you need.
The moral of the story, get good positive reinforcement friends, huh?
And make sure if you want to do an event with them that y'all are both good at the exact opposite.
Okay, I like that.
Just to add a little bit of color to the story, that Easter Sunday, we were sitting on a dock on the Calcasieu River. The weather was just perfect. It was cool but sunny. Ribs are smoking off on the side, and we're just sitting there, a couple glasses of bourbon in hand, enjoying the day. And I remember saying, what are we going to call this? And then Monday morning, he texted me with the name Smoking Barrel, and off we went.
And that's not the only one you guys created. Y'all have then said, you know what, we like what we're doing here, and have created a second rum revival. We'll talk about both in a bit. But why was creating that festival, and now two, important to you?
Kind of back to it. I just wanted to do something for the area, that one day we're looking up and somebody from out of town or even in town's like, man, I cannot believe this is happening in Lake Charles. That was kind of my goal and where I hope we're going to at some point in time in the future.
Historically, there's been a sentiment in the community that there's not enough to do here. And I think that was part of the motivation, was just to be, to not just sit back and be okay with the status quo, but to be part of change and implement change and bring new things to the table, and maybe less concrete than that. It's just fun to be part of something exciting,
Now, when creating it from scratch, you talk about obviously the partnership that you guys have created. What kind of community buy-in do you feel like is needed to be able to really pick it up? I mean, you guys seem to have a ton of support from the community that really liked what you guys put out as a vision, and now multi-years in the future, you have more than just a vision to show.
I think, one of the key things is that we did early on going into it was we wanted to make sure that whatever we put our hands on was going to be done well and was going to be done, full effort. And so in creating Smoke and Barrel Inc., even when it was just the vision to bring the one event to the table, the mission statement is to produce quality events for the enrichment of the community while raising funding for worthy charities. And so half of the mission of the nonprofit entity is to produce a quality event. And so that's kind of a long circuitous way of answering your question, but I think that when people saw the first one, they knew there was something there, and the support just kind of grew from that. The other thing I would add is we have a wonderful partner in the United Way. They are not only the benefactor of Smoke and Barrel's activities, they're a true partner in that they help with volunteer coordination and things along those lines. And so to have them involved from not day one, but event one, I think helped bolster the support.
And I know we've talked a little bit about what Smoke and Barrel is through the inspiration, but you're in the elevator, you're pitching it. What do you say? How do you explain what Smoke and Barrel is?
Well, Smoke and Barrel, it's right in the tagline. It's a celebration of fine bourbon, barbecue, and whiskey, right? And so a celebration is a party. That means great entertainment. Celebrating fine bourbon, barbecue, and whiskey means that the quality of the beverages and the food is going to be high. And at the end of the day, it is a massive bourbon and barbecue tasting. We had 95 spirit labels there last year, and in by any comparison, in any market, that is a very large tasting.
Our event is equal 3 parts: bourbon, barbecue, and entertainment. So we just want to make sure we had all those bases covered all equally. So if you do that, I mean, people are going to have a good time.
And when you say entertainment, what exactly are you speaking of?
I mean, this year, the headliners are Soul Rebels out of New Orleans. Gerald Grunin and the Gentiles are playing, and then locally, Justin Martindale. So, along with the food, bourbon, from the start of the event, music starts to the end of the event. So we just want to leave people, come 5 o'clock, they're like, man, maybe I didn't know that band, but I really like them now. I can't wait for next year.
Now, let's talk food. You meant, it's right in the name, the smoke portion of the event. And I saw you guys had kind of listed 7, 8, 9, 10 barbecue joints that have kind of already agreed. Tell me a little bit about that portion of it.
Without the food, you don't have an event. So fortunately, throughout the years, I've been able to make relationships who necessarily weren't in the barbecue business at the time, but now they are. So that really enabled us to get, we have people from the Texas monthly top 50. Dallas is represented, San Antonio, Austin area, Houston. So we're able to bring in a lot of really big names in the barbecue industry from outside of Southwest Louisiana, and still have people from Southwest Louisiana. Big Thicket and DeRitter's delicious. Being in Lake Charles, everybody knows how good Paul's food is. The Hut and Soffer, So we wanted to make it known this year how far we try to reach to bring this to Lake Charles. And that also helps getting people from outside of Lake Charles to come in for the weekend, which is also a big thing for us.
And really helps further the barbecue culture here because, if you look at the wealth of food options that we have, and we don't have a ton of really authentic barbecue. We've got a few that are great, but in terms of the number of comparisons, so this just kind of furthers, I'm sure, adds to that inspiration as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adam made mention earlier about, his passion for music, and we both share that, and we also share a passion for food in general, whether it's barbecue or otherwise. And so, going back to it, really all just ties together. We are personally passionate about food, music, beverages. The mission of the organization is to bring quality entertainment. And so these vendors are part of that quality, right? And, we really do our best to challenge these guys and gals to step outside their comfort zone as well. While we want to definitely provide a traditional barbecue experience, we also want to, provide something that maybe is a little more creative, a spin that might be outside the norm on barbecue. And Adam, like he said, has great relationships with people across the region, and that has translated very well to his ability to recruit some highly talented and creative vendors to the event.
The barrel. I know bourbon and the whiskey offerings are not necessarily finalized as of this moment, but what goes in to picking those choices there?
There's a lot to it. When you look at bourbon as a category, it's been a very hot commodity the last few years. And so there are distilleries out there that produce certain things that they sell every drop they can make, right? And so there are certain things that just will not be available in these tasting type formats because they literally don't have any liquid to spare. As far as how that lineup comes together, we have great relationships with our distributor partners. My professional background was in beverage alcohol distribution, and so having an understanding and relationships in that network helps us to be able to pull that together. But ultimately, the final outcome of the spirits lineup is driven by the ability and willingness of these distillers to put their product in front of people. And so we work really starting in about June up until it will probably be late October, early November before that lineup really is complete.
Now, the event isn't until December 2nd, but tickets way in advance. When do tickets go on sale?
Tickets are on sale now. They will sell out. This event is always sold out, and it will sell out again this year. So if anybody is interested in attending the event, we highly encourage you to not delay in purchasing your tickets, because once they're gone, there is a finite limit of attendance, and we will run out. It will dry up.
Despite there being ticketed portions of the event, the entire event is not necessarily ticketed. There are things that you could enjoy if you do just walk up and want to enjoy the atmosphere, correct?
That is correct. So the amenities of the event, the tasting components from the spirits and the barbecue tasting, those are all contained within the ticketed area. However, it is held on a public street, and everything outside the ticketed area is open to the general public. It's free. We call it the free zone. Our barbecue vendors do have plates available for purchase. Smoke and Barrel will have beer and wine and possibly some pre-mixed cocktails available for purchase. And so anybody can walk up, buy a little food, buy a little something to drink, and watch the bands from Ryan Street. The bands themselves are up on the veranda of the courthouse, and the barricades come out to Ryan Street. So there's a little bit of distance there, but it is not dissimilar from downtown at sundown or any other musical production that happens in downtown Lake Charles.
Right. You can still take part, but you're not getting the full experience at the end of the day.
No,
That's
if
correct.
the weather's nice, you can still come have a good time.
Absolutely. And we encourage people to do that. We want more people to show up and attend the free zone. Again, the ticketed amenities will always be limited. There is only so much capacity that can be handled. And so, but we would love to have more people come and hang out in the free zone and enjoy the day.
And you had mentioned earlier that the United Way, SWLA, was the really beneficiary of this all. They're the charity partner. Could you tell me what went into that partnership and how did you guys kind of choose that and I guess more into that decision?
So when we originally hatched this plan, we really had no idea where we were going to go with the charity arm of things. What we did know was that we both have day jobs, and that we personally would not have the capacity to apply these funds properly to charitable efforts. And so we knew that we would need a partner. We weren't sure what that partner was going to be. And in our discussions early on with stakeholders, somebody said, "What about United Way? Have you guys met Denise Durrell?" So we were encouraged to take a meeting with her. We did that, and really the rest is history. And, like I mentioned earlier, it's a true partnership whereby they do assist the events with volunteer coordination. And it's been a really wonderful relationship.
With the relationship we had, we've been able to kind of dictate where our donations go. And this was the first year they're actually able to do that. Once we sat down 3 or 4 months ago and we started talking about how to do it, Denise brought up a program that they wanted to really bring back to the forefront, which was called Success by 6. If a child falls behind by the time they're 3, they're probably going to have a really hard time catching back up. So we were able to donate to that this year.
We were personally passionate about investing in children because children truly are the future of any community. If we can bolster the kids that are growing up here, then that will pay dividends for the entire community as a whole down the road. And in just this short few little months, we've been able to go on ahead and fund these scholarships. And so we are paying for kids to attend accredited day schools is what it really amounts to. And we really see that as a twofold investment, because it's not only helping to ensure that these kids get the early childhood education that they need to succeed all the way through high school and into college, but it also helps these parents who find themselves in the dilemma of having to choose between staying in the workforce and having a significant, if not entire, amount of their paycheck go towards funding their child care, or taking themselves out of the workforce in order to avoid that expense. So there's just a lot of families where they end up in that situation. If they go to work, their entire paycheck pays for childcare, or they can just stay home with the kids, and it financially is the same outcome. But by helping these parents stay in the workforce, they can continue to build their careers. Any industry has management and opportunities for promotion, but anyone who is removed from the workforce for a number of years has to start over when they reenter the workforce. And so by funding these day school scholarships, we help the children, we help them prepare for their educational experience, and we are also able to help these parents stay in the workforce so that they can continue to develop their careers.
Well, look, before we kind of close here in a second, I realized that maybe I'd like to know what's always your go-to if you're having a plate of barbecue, whether you're making it, you're going somewhere, that's going to be on the plate.
I always start with turkey, especially if I've never been to the place before. Because if that turkey's dry, the rest of your food, you really got to watch it. So that turkey's, it's telling. That turkey is good, you're going to have a really good experience.
I'm a ribs guy. I love ribs. Ribs are delicious. That's what I'm going for.
So so what you're saying is that you can always expect there to be great turkey and great ribs at Smoke and Barrel.
Absolutely.
It's got to pass the 2 for test, right? And then now the other side, whiskey bourbon. What's kind of your favorite, or maybe your litmus test there?
Just good. Anything good, I'm all about it.
Yeah, so I love bourbon within the whiskey category as a whole. You know, with my background in the beverage alcohol business, for me, it's about the production process, and how are these distillers handling their products. And what I mean by that is, you know, what is their distillation process? What is their barrel aging regimen? And at the end of the day, how does that affect the outcome of the product? But people ask me all the time, what's my favorite bourbon? And when I worked in the business, I was on the wine side of things. And so all the time, what's your favorite wine? And really my answer always has been and always will be, I don't have a true favorite, okay? Depending on the weather, the food we're eating, the day of the week, the kind of day that you've had, you may choose something different, right? You might choose something lighter on a hot day, and something more robust and full-bodied on a cold winter's day, right? And so beverage alcohol has always been for me about mood and the moment and what fits the moment the best.
And then from there, you guys, second festival, we touched on it earlier, and I wanted to make sure while I had you both here that we would touch on it. Rum Revival, it's a lot newer than Smoke and Barrel, but yet another food-centric festival. This one, though, more of the Caribbean culture. It fits here, right? You know, there's plenty of that, especially with the history of Lake Charles and the pirates and all of that, how all that kind of blends together. But this one, a celebration of rum.
We wanted to do something else, but at the end of the day, you know, you kind of go with what you know. So we knew how to do an event around spirits and food. So we were like, hey, you know, spring, weather's getting better. We got bayou rum, like you said, in our backyard. Let's do something with rum, you know. And it's worked out well. Also, we like to do it inside. That way it takes the weather portion out of it, so we don't have to sweat for 2 events.
It is a tasting again of food and spirits, and it is extremely cohesive to the history here. Not only the cultural ties that you mentioned, the historical ties to the Caribbean, the pirates, the trade between the Caribbean islands and the Gulf South, but Louisiana is one of the number one producers of sugarcane in the world. If Louisiana was a country, it would be a top sugarcane producer, and the input for rum is sugarcane molasses, and so there's just a lot of cohesiveness in focusing on rum for this area, and it's fun, right? Caribbean, everybody associates the Caribbean with a good time, and it's been a fun thing to add on.
And their food has a lot of similarities with what we do anyway. I mean, even a place like St. Lucia is, the people that all had their hand in the development of those, whether it be the islanders and then the French, the English, Indian culture. Well, if you start looking at all those, it's very similar to what we've got here, right? So there's a lot of similarities between there and the food too, which I think is cool. Also, you mentioned sugarcane here. We also have a rum distillery just down the road in Jeff Davis Parish in Bayou Rum, which really I'm sure makes a perfect partner for that event too.
We got what we considered a wonderful compliment from them this year at Rum Revival. Ray Neal, who's their master distiller and had recently been in Paris and Vegas and Chicago, and he's accepting awards on behalf of Bayou Rum, and he was at Rum Revival, and he stopped and he looked at us and he said, "Man, this is really premium." Speaking of the overall feel of the event, and so we took that as a massive compliment, considering where he had been in recent history.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate you two obviously joining us here on the podcast and telling us all about the celebration, the festival of Smoke and Barrel, and of course, Rum Revival. And we're excited to have it in the area once again and how this event will continue to grow. And just to see the happy faces that are there enjoying what we do best here in Louisiana, which, once again, as the Lieutenant Governor said, celebrating things that we can eat, shoot, catch, and dance to. So we appreciate you guys coming on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And Smoke and Barrel Inc. is not done. We intend to continue to add more events, explore different formats, and be a very active member of the tourism community here in Southwest Louisiana for many years.
And I'm sure we can all follow that on y'all's website.
Oh, yeah.
Smokeandbarrel.org. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere that you follow things.
Thanks again to Nathaniel and Adam for joining us here on the show, and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us here on the podcast. If you enjoyed the show, can you please leave us a rating or a review? The little plus sign button there. You just got to click it, and that's all you've got to do, because at the end of the day, doing so helps us grow our audience and really helps us further share the unique experiences and stories of Lake Charles and Southwest Louisiana and all that we've got to offer. You can go to visitlakecharles.org/podcast for more episodes, places to eat, events happening this weekend, and so much more. I'm Brady Renard. Thanks again for coming play on Louisiana's Playground. Say it to you.